Hey, Destiny.
Hello, original gamer. How's it going?
It's Oscar. Oscar from CNET. Hey.
What's up? We've played a Twitter DM tag for quite a while now. It's like I don't have it integrated into my workflow. I have Discord, emails, but not Twitter DMs. I just get so much random stuff on there that it's been a while. But what's up? How you doing? We're finally talking.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Yeah, every time I DM you, it's usually when you're tweeting. So I'm like, he's got to see it this time.
Well,
But
there's
I
not like
guess
a
not.
note when you get. I think it intelligently like filters out things. So if you get a lot, you don't get notifications anymore for it. And if I click my other messages tabs, even my main one, I just have like a ton of just like random DMs and shit. So it's hard for me sometimes to keep track of everything. But
But it's fine. We caught you at the good time for my story. Am I coming out? Okay.
yeah, you sound loud and clear. Oh, and I'm streaming. You know
Great.
that, right? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you do
yeah,
because you saw me talking to the other guy. Yeah, you know I'm streaming. Okay.
yeah. It's kind of funny because we're going to be talking almost somewhat the same subjects.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
let me lay everything out for everybody watching and also for yourself. So I'm over at CNET. I'm a reporter there. I cover a variety of subjects, video games, crypto, NFTs, but also my big ones are misinformation, conspiracy theories.
Okay.
In April, I did a big story regarding researchers who were grad students that did a lot of looking into misinformation. And when we do these bigger stories, it's always like, well, what's the date? What's the day two story? What's comes next? And I thought to myself, well, these researchers, they put the information out there and that's pretty much it. They'll do some panels, they will do some other discussions, but they put the information for people to take in, policymakers and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, well, who else takes this information? And I thought, I watch you debate streamers.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, these guys are the ones that look up this research in order to prove like certain, in order to debunk certain things in order to win a debate.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I should talk to them. And the first one I came, full disclosure, I subscribed to you, Hunter Avalone, and Vouch.
Oof, big
But
mistake, but okay.
yeah, I knew that was going to come. But the key thing is that I checked in with all of you about the same time. I said, "Hey, I know specifically you all three of you guys
Mm-hmm.
have during streams have talked about how you've sort of changed people's minds
Mm-hmm.
who were off in the deep end. And I wanted to hear y'all's stories. Hunter gave me a great story about how he spoke with an anti-vaxxer
Mm-hmm.
who got vaccinated a week after the debate. So I wanted to, get his story. I talked with Vosh already, and I want to talk to you because again, I mean, you are the one who sort of brought this whole debate political streaming to Twitch and made a big deal out of it that the other guys even mentioned you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to get started because even though that we're at CNET, we're obviously the big tech platform, news and whatnot, we still get a lot of people that don't understand Twitch and don't understand streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So could you give me, for the sake of bringing them up to speed on who you are, just a quick background of yourself, when you started streaming, why you started streaming, and then how you got into this whole debate stream and political streaming.
Yeah, I mean, I started streaming back in 2010, I think. Um, and I originally it was just kind of a way to like share you playing video games, I guess, with people on the internet. If that was a funny or entertaining experience or educational one, if people were trying to get better at games. That's kind of how it started. And then I've always been kind of like somebody that likes to argue with people. And that kind of naturally grew more in 2016 when I made a concerted effort to get more politically involved with the whole Trump stuff and everything going on.
And I do remember the big debates way back when you debated what's his face, Jon Tron.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the I mean, so you like arguing, but I mean, what's the point? Aside from just liking to argue, I mean, is that it? Is that you're just viewing this as sort of the same way as you were streaming the games that you like playing? Is that the sort of same thing? This is what just you like doing, and you're getting paid for it. So why not do it?
Yeah, I mean, like I enjoy. It's fun. Like I like arguing. I've always like since high school, I've been like an argumentative, pretty person, kind of an argumentative person. So it's always been like an enjoyable thing for me in terms of hobbies. And then once the Trump stuff started, I guess it became more of a. I saw that like especially with Trump, that there was like this total degradation of acknowledgement of reality in the world, and I thought like, oh, maybe I can like join in on these conversations and introduce like some more sanity. But obviously, I just ended up adding to the excitement of everybody, I guess. Or it's more, yeah.
Well, that is also the kind of key thing about this, about how things have changed regarding, well, people's grasp on reality. Tell me about that. So, a lot of your debates prior to, I'd say, 2020, a lot of it was like, hey, up on mainly political issues. But it seems like things have gone a bit more off the deep end with some of the people that you spoke with. Um, have you seen basically more people that you speak with on debates that are definitely going further and further off and losing bits of reality, and they're losing not going facts anymore, just going completely off base and full of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the internet has definitely accelerated that process for sure. It's made it easier than ever to find information that's not true, and people have been segregating themselves more and more into these different camps. And it's so easy to live like we kind of were forced to share worlds before a bit. Even if we had our own TV stations, we kind of have to share. Well, we could have our own radio stations, but at least we've got some proximity to people. But the internet has atomized us so much; it's so easy to self-segregate into these perfectly selectable camps, to where you can live a whole life without ever interacting with or seeing somebody with significantly different beliefs than your own. And that's been pretty damaging in terms of having people sharing realities, I would say.
And with some of the debates that you have now, I've seen like the recent talks or debates, if you will, with like Nick Fuentes and people on that whole side of whether it's Cozy or the Groypers and whatnot. It seems like they themselves are still they're trying to cover up they're for me, I'm seeing that they're still throwing out little QAnon dog whistles that I've talked with researchers and they understand, and I picked them up. Are you seeing that also kind of people are sort of obfuscating their obvious conspiracy theories with trying to be sort of trying to make give a perception that they're actually level-headed on
Yeah,
their
but I mean, like,
issues?
I think you have to be really careful with how you interpret that type of thing, because, like, everybody to some extent masks, like, everybody to some extent hides things. I actually have stopped doing the crypto stuff now. Like, I'm not trying to say, like, anybody's hiding anything, because I found that, like, I think that's something that people on the far right were really good at doing, is getting left leaning people in this world to where they're calling out every single thing as a potential dog whistle crypto thing, and it's starting to make them look crazy. So that even if a reasonable center leaning person were to like ask you a question, you instantaneously interpret it in the worst faith possible. I'm sure you were around. I don't know how long you've been writing, but there was a time period where everybody was scouring every single picture of every single person on the internet looking for an okay sign to prove that they were like a secret Nazi and stuff. And it got so extreme that nowadays I'll take anybody at face value for what they say, and then we'll argue about face value stuff. And if they're hiding anything, they're going to have to hide it for a whole convo, because I mean, they're not going to bring it up, obviously. And I'm okay with those types of conversations. Yeah.
So about the people that you've debated with, again, so when I spoke with Hunter, he had someone who really just like changed changed her mind tremendously. Have you had anyone that you debated with that you were able to really just change your mind big time? I know sometimes the people that you speak with are heavily into their political sphere and are obviously not going to change anytime soon. But has there been someone?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had quite a few of those. I get a lot of. I've got like a label in my email called testimonials, and if it's people that have said that, oh, I used to be very conservative, or I used to be alt right, or I used to be, super far, or whatever, but I've kind of changed my mind over time. I save all of those under a special label. I probably got like 200 or so of those in my inbox. For conversations, I remember that I argued with one dude. You brought up the anti-vax thing. I remember arguing with a person's dad before. I say argue, but it was more of a conversation. And I want to say, I don't know if chat can tell me if this is true or not. I think, didn't that kid come back and say his dad went and got vaccinated after that conversation? I think that happened. Hopefully I'm not making that up, but
I
yeah.
think I remember that.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, well, if you remember it, then it happened. There you go. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to hope that I've had some effect. Yeah.
Okay. So a couple hundred emails. Wow, I didn't know it was that many.
Sure. I just checked. It's like 263 right now. Yeah.
Wow. Has there, I mean, uh, has there, so is it a combination, is it mostly just people that were sort of heavy on the right that seem to come on the left, or are there people that really like, oh my God, I was in like the deep of it, and you kind of gave me a, a lifesaver.
I think the three most I see, it used to be it was always people on the very far right. Now it's people on the very far right and very far left. And then a third thing I'll see are a lot of like center right leaning people who say that they're just happy they can listen to somebody on the left that's not insane. So a lot of the times they're like, oh, like, hey, like I'm still conservative. Like I'm definitely like a center right person. I'm probably voting Republican. But like I appreciate that you can at least give the rational arguments from the left without being like unhinged. So I'd say those are probably the three most common types of people that I get.
Now, so let me. One of the people I've also spoken with is a professor who focuses on political rhetoric, and he's fascinated about you guys. When I told him about this whole how these whole debate streams, and I had explained it to him, I gave him some examples. He gave me an interesting opinion on these debate streams, where the way he viewed it is that the debate streams, they're not going to widely change people's minds. It's not like if you do a debate and you win a debate and everybody who listens all of a sudden changes their minds. Obviously, that doesn't happen. But he views that there needs to be a bit of wiggle room in the person's mind. I mean, do you agree with that? You're able to kind of get in there and sort of do like a little brain worm and get them to, you know, kind of realize maybe they don't have all the right answers.
There's a really complicated process for this that like I say complicated, but it's very multifaceted. There's like 20 different things going on when it comes to changing somebody's mind on a given thing. So a couple of these things. So one is I'll say like I like to provide like a soft landing pad for people that disagree with me. If there is somebody, for instance, that believes that like trans people are evil or unnatural and need to be erased from society, I'm not going to start that conversation by saying like your beliefs make you a transphobic piece of shit, because now in order for them to acknowledge anything I'm saying is true, they're going to have to accept like a deeply uncomfortable analysis of themselves that makes them out to be a bad guy. Nobody's a bad guy in their own mind. Nobody sees himself as a bad guy. So like generally I try to avoid like big judgment statements. Unless it's like a very heated debate, and we've already started like screaming at each other. Like I'll try to avoid judgment so that a person feels like, hey, there's some room to disagree. I don't think you're a horrible person, but like maybe try looking at it this way. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it that I talk about a lot is you have to be able to acknowledge descriptive truths. As soon as you turn your backs on those things, you've removed yourself from the conversation. Left-leaning people are really, really bad about this because there are some uncomfortable truths, and if they don't acknowledge them, then anybody that's not fully bought in is going to ignore everything you're saying. So, for instance, like, there are differences between men and women. Everybody knows this. Even people that say that there aren't know this. Everybody knows this. If you can't start from that foundation of like, well, I think men and women should be treated equally in society. Of course, there are some differences. If you're not willing to start there, you've already lost, anybody that would not agree with you. Or like black on black crime. That is something we need to talk about. It's an important thing, like things like that. One, two, and then there's a bunch. Those are probably the two biggest things when it comes to talking to people who disagree with you. There's going to be a lot of other smaller things as well. Try to like externalize ideas. Don't essentialize them. If you believe a racist thought, you believe a racist thought. It doesn't make you a racist person. Try to avoid like isms. Like rather than saying like racism or transphobia ism, I don't know if that's right, but whatever. Like try to have like more like. It sounds condescending, but almost like you're talking to a kid and you're trying to convince them of something rather than beat somebody over the head with something. Also, be aware of where people are at. If I'm talking to like literally Hitler, I'm probably not going to try to make him into Martin Luther King in a day. Maybe I just want to make it so that he can focus all of his hatred on only Jewish people instead of the other groups. And then the next conversation we have, maybe I'll try to get him off the Jew thing, right? Like you have to meet people where they are and like move them slowly if that's your goal. Yeah, there's like a ton of like little things like this to keep in mind. Yeah.
And so that's yeah, so that's your strategy, because that's interesting. So when I talked with Hunter, his strategy, his whole thing that he wants to do in debates is he's talking to the audience mainly, and because he knows some with some of these people that they come on, they'll obviously go on his stream and they'll go. I mean, they'll be on the other person's stream as well. But he's talking to the audience that he thinks they could change, that he could change their mind. And the big thing he says is he provides him with a different narrative. He provides him with, you know, here's the crazy thing you think of. Is that what's happening, or is this more realistic, more, obvious thing happening? And that's the way he viewed it, is that he's providing a better narrative.
Hmm.
Would you agree with that's sort of like what you're shooting for as well?
I'm trying to. That's something I'm trying to improve. I'm really bad at because I don't, in my own head, I don't really think in narratives a lot. I think very discreetly. Like this is a fact. This is a fact. I think that's how I put my worldview together. But people in general think of narratives, and that's something I've tried to improve in my debate strategy. Yeah, so I'm working on that. Yeah, but admittedly, it's not my strong point.
When it comes to the strategies itself, and I mean, leading up to the debates, I know you've had research streams. Is that are you? I don't see him as much when I tune in, but I mean, are you still trying to when you know a debate's coming up? Do you go in and say, "Hey, I need to start grabbing all those facts that you want," or are you taking, when I talk with Bosch, it's more of a he wants to sort of get to them regarding their argument. So, are you looking to still take in all the facts? Or are you trying to wean yourself off of just only the facts, but you want to just counter that argument in the narrative? What are
Um,
you looking?
I think it's both. You have to be willing to have the philosophical discussion about like what ought we do, but you need to be armed with the facts because the other side has them. Whether they're real or not, they have a set of facts that they subscribe to, and if you're not willing to contend with those, you're always going to look bad in a conversation.
Um, so I gotta talk about this because, you know, like I said, I'm back when I remember about the whole Jon Tron debate, and then your name came up again when I'm an avid listener of The Daily. And when the New York Times did an episode about the people that were being sort of dragged from the alt-right, they talked to a kid who said he listened to your stream with Lawrence Sutherland, that debate.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously now she's sort of come back into your world. And it's now that also the Great Reset has also become such a big deal because of the.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, tell me about that. That there is still. I mean, you were literally also talking about it before I came on. So about that sort of discussion about the Great Reset. I mean, how are you viewing it now that things are sort of coming back? That this is becoming all of a sudden the subject matter again.
How am I feeling in regards to what do you mean more specifically? Like, do I?
So,
Yeah.
because like I said, with the New York Times when they did the podcast about you,
Mm-hmm.
about how you spoke with Lauren, you did a debate and you changed people's minds to get them from being the outright. You're kind of now talking with her again, and you've kind of had to counter her arguments again about the Great Reset with a
Great.
recent debate.
When you
So,
say great reset, do you mean great reset or great replacement? Just where on that.
I always say Great Reset instead of Great Replacement.
Yeah,
Great
you're fine.
Replacement.
Gotcha. Okay.
So about that, you're kind of like in the mix again, talking about this
Mm-hmm.
subject matter because obviously it's in the news because of the manifesto. So, I mean, tell me about how having to bring that up, talking about this particular the Great Replacement all over again. I mean, is it sort of like you're bored with it, or
No, I mean, there's
has
still
no?
like it's still relevant. Obviously, if people are talking about if people are talking about it, right? And I think Tucker Carlson talks about this a lot on his show now, so it's probably worth addressing. It's interesting to see it brought back up again now that I have kind of like different rhetorical strategies for dealing with people. In the past, typically the way that it worked was people online on the left were very afraid of having conversations. And I was probably the only person initially that was willing to go into these like very hostile arenas and talk to these far right-leaning people and do like a show of strength that show that like, oh, even if you're on the left, like you don't have to necessarily be like too afraid of talking to people with differing opinions. Like that was my big strength back then. Nowadays, I'm kind of less interested in like showing strength and I'm more interested in showing understanding. I think a big issue that a lot of people on the right have is that they feel like people don't understand them. I mean, this is true on the left as well, but the left doesn't have to worry about it as much culturally because they kind of have like the levers of culture. But I think that a lot of people on the right are probably fundamentally misunderstood by people on the left. And I hope that like if I can express some level of understanding, it's a little bit easier to kind of get people on board with the things that I'm saying if they would disagree with me otherwise.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because you're right. I obviously debates weren't really happening in the same sense in 2018 and previously.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I back prior to me working at prominent places, I had my own gamer blog and I wrote about Gamergate, and obviously I kept up with all the stuff happening. So this whole thing about Ethan Ralph be kind of coming back to the thing and that whole the kill streams and all that. I remember when that was first happening. So I kind of get what you're saying about you were kind of going into the lion's den to take on these guys.
Yeah.
And now so that's interesting. You're saying that things have changed where now it's like instead of fighting them
Rather
off,
than
you're
being
kind
like
of like,
ultra combative, I'm trying to show some level of like understanding. Yeah. And then hopefully that like, oh, well, hey, because like I said, I think the descriptive part is important. If you're listening to somebody and it feels like they don't even understand your grievances, you're not going to listen to any of their solutions because they don't even know what the problem is. So I'm hoping that if you hear me, it's like, oh, well, hey, at least this guy understands like the worry that I have. Maybe he has something relevant to say to alleviate my fears, or at least to give me like a different understanding of an issue. I don't necessarily agree with what he's saying.
okay. So you're finding that it's not just so it's not just the what you're finding that's working now. It's not just the smash them in the face with facts anymore.
Uh-huh.
It's a combination of factors like you mentioned earlier, but also a bit of empathy.
Yeah. A lot of empathy, yeah. An unhuman amount of empathy. It takes a lot of empathy to be empathetic towards people that are different than you. And when I say different than you, I mean truly different. Not different like, oh, like I'm straight and he's gay when you align on like 99% of views. I mean different like I live in a population 5 million metropolitan area, and this guy lives like in a rural town of like 5,000. These are like where the real differences are. I think there's a lot of fake differences in society that people feel like they can relate to a lot of different types of people when in reality there's like this 98% overlap in beliefs. I think the real difficulty is trying to be empathetic towards people that are genuinely far, far, far different than you are in terms of like political belief or like lived experiences.
And so now with your because like you said, you're not just having debates, but you're just having conversations, kind of like again what you had previously to when I came on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you so is it still it's still a matter of that you're still wanting to argue because you like arguing. You still kind of like bombarding people with facts. You still again with your empathy. So is it just a matter that you're finding another reason to like arguing and that's why you're still this is still something that you enjoy doing, or is it just
Um, I
like from
enjoy
day
doing
one
it.
it's just
Yeah, I wouldn't
yeah.
say it's
Oh,
arguing. I love the arguing. I don't think, but I don't know if I can go back to that. I think that I'm uniquely talented at empathizing with people. I think it's something that I do exceedingly well, better than anybody else. I think in these arenas, I'm very good at like having some level of empathy for lots of different types of people, and I don't think a lot of people are good at doing that here. But in terms of like, is it like another way to debate? I don't think I ever get to really practice that anymore. That is fun. I do a few, but like the really old, like, like shit down somebody's throat, screaming sources at somebody, like owning somebody in the marketplace of ideas isn't really going on, I think, in a lot of my conversations now.
okay. And when you're doing the conversations now with like again Nick Fuentes and the other guys who are definitely, I mean, hardcore in their sense,
Mm-hmm.
are you still in the back of your mind saying, "Hey, maybe doing this conversation, I could change a few of these people's minds," or are you just like, this is a conversation I'm having that I want to have. I don't. You're not that whole thing about wanting to change people's minds. That's not sort of in your
I
in
think
your
that
mindset.
people need to have more faith in what they believe in. I think that my set of ideas is really good. I really like the concepts surrounding liberalism. I like a lot of concepts surrounding feminism. I think that these are good, strong things that are worth defending. And I think that given enough exposure to them and opportunity to understand them, I think most people would agree. And I have a really strong belief in that. So when I'm having conversations with people, my understanding is that if I do a good enough job representing these types of ideas, hopefully you see at least some common ground. And maybe in the future you like feel more of a pull towards them. But I feel like a lot of people on my side don't really have any faith in their ideas, right? Like, why would I be scared about like somebody from, a very far conservative movement having a voice on my platform? Or why do I feel like I need to ban or shut down every type of speech that doesn't agree with mine? When I see people do that, it makes me think that you don't have very much confidence in your ideas. Like, how good are your ideas really if one dude with a Twitter account can blow out your entire movement? Seems like your ideas are really weak and fragile at that point, such that I don't even know if I should believe in them anymore. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't go around with this explicit idea, if for no other reason than because it is a little condescending. I don't go around with this explicit idea like I'm here to change your mind and everybody else's mind and blah blah blah. It's more just the idea that like if I represent my ideas as well as I know they can be represented, like naturally at the end of the day, I should be able to pull people towards my sort of ideology without like having to make an explicit effort to do it.
And about the current state of debate streamers, and I don't want to get into I don't want to get at any beefs,
Okay.
but I do want to get your opinion
Mm-hmm.
that right now, I mean, along with you guys, I also watch Dylan Burns and I watch Hippy Dippy quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the sort of wide range of personalities involved. And it seems like again early on, with like the kill stream, they're all just, you know, on the right, they're Trumpers and whatnot. And now I see with Twitch and YouTubers debating, it's a lot of the left. And I mean, are you? What are your thoughts that you're seeing more of these guys who are doing these debate streams? Again, not trying to get into specific beef, but I mean, in general, what do you think about that? You've kind of brought this in, and that they themselves are also changing people's minds.
I mean, it's good if they do it and they're not like just re-radicalizing people. I think for a lot of my career, I think I ran into that issue. I didn't realize it, but I think I do a really poor job at communicating my thought process, and instead I'm just really good at communicating my conclusions. And I don't really want people to just bite my thoughts. I'd rather they disagreed with me on things, but at least I have like a reasonable thought process. So I've been trying to emphasize that a bit more lately. If other people are doing their thing politically, I guess that's fine. I guess my issue is a little more personal at that point. A lot of these people that kind of came from me are now like trying to actively destroy me. So it's a little bit of a weird dynamic. But yeah, I would say like overall, I think that kind of the biggest thing is that I hope that people are communicating positive thought processes and not just obsessing over having like the right opinion on something.
All right. And for the sake of painting the whole picture, you are Ben on Twitch. Could you give me just a quick explainer of what happened?
I wish I could. I don't know 100% why because they don't actually communicate that to you. If there's like two guesses I have, one is that like I use a lot of fiery language, and I was referring to I think I called the online activist trans community like inbreds or something like that. And I guess there's a possibility that that quote might have been that I was calling all trans people inbreds. It's either that or there was another. There's a part in the TOS on Twitch that says that you're not allowed to be discriminatory against anybody for any reason. And I want to say that one of the explicitly listed ones have to do with athletic participation due to sex. And I was on the arguments that I was making was that it's probably not a good thing that cisgender women are competing with transgender women. So maybe it was a discrimination thing they thought for that argument. But I can't truly tell you because they don't communicate it. All they say is hate speech. So I have no idea.
All right. Okay. So just to leave it off, anything else you want to add regarding about you debating people about misinformation and conspiracy theories, about you changing people's minds? Anything else I didn't ask you think I should ask?
Not that I can think of. I think that people need to do a way better job at understanding why people believe the things they believe.
Mhm.
Like conservatives don't want to get rid of abortion because they hate women and they want to control them, and liberals don't want to hold on to abortion because they hate babies and they just love watching them all die or killing black babies or whatever crazy stuff conservatives say. I think that people do a really bad job at trying to understand why people believe the things they do, and I wish people could just do a better job at that.
All right. Okay. Then yeah, that's takes care of it for me. Like I said, I'll be this story I'm currently working on, looking to publish a couple of weeks or so. I'll check back in with you to clear up a few things. I'll hit you up on Discord instead of Twitter. But yeah, that was great.
Cool. Okay. Well, hey, have fun. Be careful. Stay safe. And I will talk to you later. Maybe. Okay. Oh wait.
Yeah.
I'm gonna type you my email. If you email me, I'll respond every time. 99% of the time within 24 hours, 100% of the time within 48 hours. If you email me, I'll never miss it, and I'll always have it here just in case. Okay.
I appreciate that, and again, I appreciate the time. Again, this ended up timing out right because I just finished another story, so I was able to dedicate this and to talk with you.
Okay. Cool.
So I appreciate that.
Awesome. And if you use the information in this to make a hit piece about me, I'm gonna find you on Twitter, and we're gonna cancel you. So just as a heads up.
You literally are posting my Twitter account right now. So
I know.
I'm easy to find. I'm
Okay.
OG reporter on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Cheap love.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate the conversation.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Get them prepare the Dali ban.